Let's talk about quantizing. I've set up an arrangement with this track playing a drum groove and this track down here playing or being set up for a bass part. That's my bass sound, these are my drum sounds. And I'll just record something freely and we'll see what it sounds like. Now I go into my recording by double clicking on the part and have a look at how well I've played the part, and you can see that not all of the notes here are exactly on the lines. This one here is being played too early, that one's a bit too early, this one's too early. Cubase has a function called quantizing, which you can find up here in the functions menu. Quantize, there it is. You can select the notes like this, go for functions and go for it, quantize, and you can see that all the notes are now exactly on the lines. Basically, Cubase moves the notes to the nearest line. If you're not happy with how Cubase put the notes, you can always go back into the functions menu and do undo quantize, and it'll move the notes back to where they were in the first place. To show you what I mean, I'll select this note here and I'll move it in the info line so it comes closer to the 4th 16th note line. I'll carry on doing this. I've got 1500 ticks now, and you can see it's nearer to this line there. So if I select these 4 notes again and do quantize, I can also press Q on the keyboard, then you can see that this note here moved to the 4th 16th note instead of going to beat 2. I mean, this is not necessarily how I wanted the music to be, so I could either do undo quantize and move the note manually, or I can just select this note on its own and drag it across as well. If you want to quantize all the notes in the editor, you just need to press the Q key or go straight for functions, quantize. I'm going to hit the Q key now, and you can see that all the notes in the editor have moved to their better positions. It's the to menu down here, the to drop down menu, which determines whether certain functions affect all the notes or just a few selected ones. At the moment it was set to all notes. That's because none of the notes here are selected. But as soon as I select a bunch of notes, like these for example, you can see that the to menu switches to all selected notes. So now if I was to press quantize, only these notes would be affected. And if I deselect the notes, the to menu goes to all, which means that all the notes would be affected now. This menu's got a few different options, either all events, looped events, which would mean all the loops inside, all the events inside this loop, all the cycled events. The cycle events are all events inside of this loop here, or the common cycle. Selected events, we've just had that one, and then selected events inside the loop and selected events inside the cycle. I'll show you what I mean. I'll press undo. So all notes go back to their original recorded positions, apart from this note here, because we've actually manually placed this note onto beat 2. Now let's set up a loop in here, inside this editor. This is how you do it. There's our loop. The loop ranges from bar 1, beat 4, 2nd 16th note to bar 3, beat 4 and 3rd 16th note. The loop symbol is on. If the loop symbol is off, this becomes grey. If it's on, it's blue. But for what we're going to do, it doesn't matter whether the loop is on or off. And let's hit, by the way, see here the to menu says looped. Let's hit the quantize key again, and notice that only these notes here have been quantized. Now as soon as I select some of the notes inside the loop, the menu switches to looped selected, and if I do undo quantize, I press U on the keyboard, then only these notes here have become undone quantized. Quantizing is very easy. The only thing you need to watch out for is to make sure that the quant setting here matches your musical elements that you've got. Let me show you what I mean. Let's deselect the notes and do undo quantize for all the notes involved. We'll select 8th notes here and make sure that the to menu goes to all events. Now keep an eye on this note here, that note, these notes here, and I'll press the Q key for the quantize function. And as you can see, these notes have now moved away from the 16th position and they're on 8th positions. And if we play the track, the music has become different now, hasn't it? If we do this even further, let's say the quant position was on quarter notes, and we'll hit the Q key to all selected notes, to all notes, hit the Q key, then our bass line goes like this. Which is not what we intended in the first place. In case this happens, and it's going to happen, all you need to do is press the U key on the keyboard and you end up with the original idea again. You can quantize from within any editor, whether it's the Midi editor, the drum editor, the audio editor, the list editor, the score editor, and so on, and also straightforward from the arrangement window. Let's keep this one on quarter notes. I'll close this window. This is the bass part that I'd like to quantize. Now for the arrangement window, these quant setting are the important ones. So I'll select the part, hit the Q key as before, and you might have seen that these notes have changed ever so slightly. I'll open the editor again, and you can see that all the notes here have become quantized according to 16th notes positions. And if I change this one again to 16th notes, you can see everything is nicely quantized. Cubase has got a great feature which enables you to quantize your material if you're in a hurry and do everything on the fly while you're recording the tracks. So I'll set up a new track and I'll show you my new ideas that I want to play, and I'll take you through the quantizing. So I've set up my new track and I want to record something like this here in a 16th note feel over the top of my track, and I don't want to quantize the notes afterwards. I want to just make sure everything is quantized. So all I do is I press auto quantize on the transport bar. The keyboard shortcut for that one is Z on my system, Z, and I have to make sure that this field up here says 16th notes as well, since I want to record 16th notes. I'll switch off the cycle since I only want to record one turn, and let's go for it. Let's play it back. Everything's nicely in time. Let's go into the editor. I couldn't have played it any better, could I? One little tip on the side, not necessarily having anything to do with quantizing, but you've seen me record into Cubase freely and I've made up my rhythms on the go as well. And when I listen to the whole 8-bar section, I might not like all the rhythms that I've played, but I might have come up with one or two of the rhythms that I think work really well with the whole track, and I could then just pick those 2 bits and use those 2 bars, or maybe just one rhythm, for the whole section. So what I'll usually do is, once I've recorded something freely, I'll listen back to it again, and try to remember which ones were my favourite rhythms. You might need to listen to those things a few times. This is what I usually do, and let me see whether I can find one I like. I think my personal 2 favourite rhythms are these 2, which are in bar 3 and bar 4. So I'll close the editor, get my scissors out, check my snap setting lights for the bars. This is where you can see where I'm going to cut it. So this is bar 3, and at the beginning of bar 5, and I usually keep these parts for later sometimes. Move it across and then listen to it again. So while listening back to the parts, I think that some of the notes could change, and I don't want to do the change on all of my parts. So what I do is I'd get rid of these 3 parts and make a few ghost copies of my first part. I press Ctrl K, select ghost copies, okay, and now I might set this one up in a loop. I hit Alt and P to make my left and right locator encompass that part. I'll open the editor by pressing Ctrl E on the keyboard. I hit the 1 key for the song position to go back to the beginning of the song. And switch on the cycle. And I'd probably get rid of the very first note. Maybe move this one and create a copy. Maybe delete this note. Or I might not delete it. I press Ctrl Z, but move it back 1. Control and arrow. So this is I might select both of those notes at the end, Shift and arrow, and now I'll move both notes across, Control arrow, and I think this is my final version. I hit enter and reset the loop, press Alt and P, and the loop has changed back to, the cycle has changed back to bar 1 and bar 9. I did all the editing while the song was playing, so I could always hear the results straight away, and also my ideas have developed. So I started with some sort of an idea, and then I've changed it slightly and slightly and slightly until I thought, this is okay, this is how I like it, this is what I want it to be. And don't worry about quantizing and then not being able to undo the quantize process later on. Cubase, as soon as you quantize something, Cubase will always store the original version and the quantized version, And even after a year or 2 years, if you want to open the song again and undo quantize, that's not a problem. Cubase has both bits of information there for you, and you can just undo the quantization functions whenever you like again.